Welcome, travelers. We're aware that your journey was difficult, but prepare to have your questions answered, for you have been granted an audience with the Masters of Modern.
And welcome back to Masters of Modern. I am your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman. You can see us. We're on a camera.
What's up, everybody? We're so excited we're here. We're looking at this device that you, the Patreon users, helped us get, and it looks like the 2001 Space Odyssey. I'm looking into the eye of Hal. I feel like we're being watched. It's an amazing device. But all that aside, we're here for the first time doing video for you guys. We're talking about Modern on video for you, the listeners of the show.
This is what the camera looks like.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna go infinite.
Look at that.
Can you
feedback?
Maybe you can see this. Maybe you can't. Hopefully our new camera can focus on it. Okay. Now we're moving it back.
Yeah.
All right. That's what we did there. So, yeah, this was brought to you by the Patreon. Thanks to everyone who's been donating over the last couple months. That is eventually amalgamated into a large enough amount of money that we were able to afford this really cool camera thing that lets us, can do multicam and would allow us to maybe even start doing streams of gameplay and other things. So get ready for exciting new video content as we move into 2018.
Yeah, we've been talking to you guys about different video opportunities for such a long time now that it's finally cool to really actually be able to do it. And actually, on that note, so just for everybody, we're going to be talking about a couple things today. I was at Grand Prix Vegas. That is one of the things we're going to be talking about today.
It's the main thing we're talking about today.
The experience of Vegas, the recap, all of it. There's so much cool stuff to break down there. But on top of that, we do need to let you guys know that last week's episode actually just went up a second ago, literally.
As we're recording this on Monday at 4:45 p.m.
We've had a little bit of some technical snafus.
June 18th, 2018.
That have happened recently. The first one is the SD card that included our top 10 Demir cards was lost. Spoiler alert, we found it. So another late episode is going to be going up. But also...
probably next week. I don't think we want to do 3 episodes this week.
Last week's upload, for some reason, stalled. And we didn't even realize it until just right now.
I blame the Vegas internet.
Yeah. So all that being said, we are here to talk to you guys today about the Modern format. And you're going to also hear last week's predictions episode this week, because that's just how it is.
But the cool thing to make up for it is we have our preview card that Wizards was kind enough to give us free, and we're excited to show it to you.
Yeah, we have a preview card, a brand new M19 preview card. God, there's so much cool stuff to talk about in this week's episode. I feel like I'm overwhelmed by the amount of cool stuff. So before we get fully into the preview card, let's just do 1 or 2 quick shout-outs. We space them out now. The first shout-out is we are on Twitter. You can find me personally at Ben Bateman Media.
I'm at Kess Wiley. We are at the MMCast.
Yep. And
we should get a sign printed out with all of that on there.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group also, which is the Masters of Modern Facebook group.
And eventually we're going to actually try aiming to live stream some of this. We had to record this one ahead of time because of the preview card.
Right.
But when we get this up and running, there'll be live streams, and it'll either be live streamed to the Facebook group. So make sure to follow the Facebook page and the group, or it might be to our YouTube channel that we'll be launching. We have to decide that. So put a pin in it. We'll follow up with you next week on where exactly it's going to be, but keep an eye out on all the social media places just in case.
So the first thing to be said about this card is it was given to us by Wizards for free. We totally appreciate their support.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most awesome thing in the world. Everybody on the Wizards team that provides us with these previews, that helps us, that supports us in doing our show, we could never do it without that consistent support. And, the card is something we really, really appreciate. So we can't wait to share it with you guys.
When we got our first preview card, it was like life accomplished.
Yeah.
I was done. I stopped going to work.
This is how conversations go when people don't know about the podcast. When they're like, oh, you do a Modern podcast? It's like... we do a Modern podcast. We've been doing it for about 3.5 years. We were the guys that spoiled Fatal Push. I'm like, oh, really? Wow, you guys are actually legitimate. That's like legitimate every conversation that I've ever had with somebody who doesn't know about the podcast.
Yeah, but we have a cool one today.
Yeah.
It's a very isolating card.
Yeah, it's in a vacuum. This card would isolate. I don't know. You had a better joke than me. So we have
people don't know it's a joke because they don't know what the card is.
Because they don't know what the card is.
So they'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. It costs 1 white.
Ooh.
It is an instant. It's a rare out of M19. We don't know as recording this if this is part of a cycle or not, but there is a similar card in black that has been previewed.
So what it says is exile target creature. That creature's controller may search their library for a basic land, put it into play, tapped.
No, it doesn't say that.
Oh, that's just path exile. That's not the card, guess.
It's definitely not that. It is exile target permanent with converted mana cost 1.
You know, Alex, why don't we actually just show them what we're talking about?
Do we have an extremely large thing that our producer is going to focus on once we flip it over?
Look at this.
Well, bam. Look at that. Power of having a camera and a set.
Bam. Power of having a power of this guy owning a toy company with an enormous printer. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Isolate. That's where the joke came from. It's very isolating.
So, this card.
One white. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Exile, target permanent with converted mana cost 1. The art's pretty cool.
I like how like it gets around the loophole of like it can exile lands, but so it doesn't have to say non-land permanent because lands cost 0.
So is that some sort of Loxodon hierarch in the background there?
I don't know if it's a hierarch. It's definitely a Loxodon.
Wasn't Loxodon hierarch the 4 life one, the 4 for 4 that you gain life? Right? The old green white card?
Maybe.
Wasn't that called Loxodon hierarch? I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea, but that's not what that is.
Okay, it's an elephant.
It's a Loxodon. And then there's like 4 other people.
Some priests of some kind?
Yeah, they're isolating a guy. His hands are like up with his wrists facing forward, begging to not be isolated, but they're like, nope. And then they're like, threefold were his crimes, double were his pleas, singular was his fate. That's the flavor text. But, yep.
The dream is now to cast this in a tournament against somebody on a feature match, and then after you've taken out the creature to win the game, quote the flavor text to them and say it out loud. You like take out their blocker to win the game, and just before you swing for lethal, you look at them and you say, threefold were his crimes, doubled were his pleas, singular was his fate, and then they'll flip the table before you win the game.
So what are some key cards you can use this on in the format? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Aether Vial. Like that's like
Vial's a huge one. Yep.
Big one. I think any of the mana creatures.
Yeah.
So Noble Hierarch,
this is good against
Paradise.
This is good against elves. I think this is really good against Death Shadow. I mean, that to me is like because in the format currently, the only removal spell that is prominently played that gets rid of a Death Shadow is Path to Exile. So
sure,
you can actually play.
Fatal Push gets rid of.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I take that back. You're right. So you don't really.
You're wrong.
Just wrong outright. Yeah.
What's interesting about this card is as a sideboard card, it's very fascinating because there are a lot of decks that this is really good against. But I'd be interested to see how many, like. Are there enough decks out there that are playing with 1-drop permanents where this becomes main deckable? And anything more, maybe as a one-of, like it kind of the Dispel test. Like Dispel is really good right now. And we're going to talk about that in a second because so many decks play at least one high-end instant. And if you're trying to protect something, it's even better because every removal spell in the format is instant speed. Is there enough 1-drops in the format where this becomes a main deckable card?
Well, okay, I have a couple thoughts on that. I think the first answer is no, because there are enough decks in the format that don't play a 1-drop that you have to get rid of, that I don't know that this card like needs to exist.
I mean, Humans has a 1-drop. Humans has both Noble Hierarch, Vial, and
Champion of the Parish.
Champion of the Parish. It has Death Shadow decks or any kind of control decks, something around that line. Every Elves obviously has elf creatures. Blue Bant Company has 1-drops.
Yeah,
like,
I mean the most. So I think
Hollowed One is the one deck where I think this is the largest whiff.
Just because Flameblade Adept is the only card that it kills.
Even then,
or no, it's not Flameblade. It's not Flameblade.
But yeah, they have the 1-drop. So I think this is arguably playable main deck. I don't think you want more than one. It kind of ends up being the same space as Spell Snare, where like you don't want a full suite of these, but as a one-of, you're just going to sometimes get someone with a removal spell that's a blowout against them. And if you like paired with Snapcaster Mage is where I think this has the highest value.
Well, yeah, I mean the fact that this card. Because like the yield that this card in your opening hand against an Aether Vial deck gets you is so crushing to them. I mean, it gets Merfolk. Yeah, I mean, 50% of the format has a relevant 1-drop.
And I would say we haven't been able to name a highly played deck, and obviously the internet's probably yelling at us right now, that doesn't have at least a 1-drop that is at least relevant to get rid of.
Scape Shift or Titan Shift do not, I believe.
Is that I don't know if I would classify that. Eldrazi doesn't really.
Well,
but it has Hierarch. It has Hierarch a lot of times.
Depending on the Eldrazi deck. Yeah, they have Hierarch.
Tron has Map is the one thing you might be able to get someone off of.
Yeah, and some of them, and all of the Taxes decks, they pretty much all play Vial. A lot of them play Relic.
Yeah, those are easy. Yeah. I mean, it's more the big mana decks is maybe your biggest weakness.
Yeah.
Jund, just like straight up Jund decks.
Jund decks straight up don't have a 1-drop permanent. They have 1-drop spells.
Well, they have all the Thoughtseize in the world, but I think Jund is just a blank.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, regular Jeskai.
But Jund's bad right now.
Jeskai Control, which is maybe the format's best deck right now, does not play
a 1-drop.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a one-of, I think it's way more relevant as a sideboard card, and I think it's a super good sideboard card because we just named it as a catch-all that's going to be able to like for instance.
Yeah, one of in your sideboard where you can just bring this in against a lot of people. Especially if your deck, you want it in decks that have cards that are dead in some matchups. I think this just like as I need my 15th sideboard card is like fine, but in decks that like really need to get rid of some spells, this helps.
Yeah, I think this card's pretty sweet. I know we've seen one other card be spoiled so far in M19 that's kind of similar, right? It's like
that was the black one. That's what I was saying. This could be part of a cycle. There's it exiles a colorless creature card, and then you gain life equal to its power. So it's like a blowout against Eldrazi creatures. I think that,
and it's such a blowout against Wormcoil Engine. Holy smokes!
I just don't
exile your Wormcoil for 1 black, instant speed, and I gain 6 life.
I'd be much happier if it said Planeswalker and creature, just like a little bit of a screw you to Karn and Ugin. Like the fact that you can't get rid of Karn is like a big niche on that card, and then this card has similar like matchups are just not going to be as great. I'm excited though. I mean, more cool removal spells in Modern has never hurt anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just love interactive cards that cost 1. I think, yeah, format to format. I mean, this probably is this going to see Legacy play?
I think it has
rid of Deathrite Shaman.
Higher chance of seeing Legacy play than Modern play.
I mean, the fact that this answers Deathrite Shaman and it exiles Deathrite Shaman.
Getting rid of Violent Deathrite Shaman, it goes very far away.
Big game.
Yep.
Gets rid of Top.
Well, Top's banned.
Really? Countertop's not still playable in Legacy? What
no,
did I miss?
Banned.
Like a year ago?
Like 6 months ago.
I kind of remember that. I don't play Legacy, so
yeah,
I used to.
How dare you not know that this random format that you don't play?
Okay, well there you go.
We're all embarrassed for you.
Yeah, I'm very embarrassed.
All right, so next run of shout-outs now that we've done the preview card. So I have a toy company, you may have heard, and you might see some of the toys randomly sprinkled around us like these drop-top balls. But
cool ball.
And in the big banner above us, you can see the words Battle Bosses. And so in August 14th, we're doing our first game Kickstarter. So we launched our first game last year. It was called Super Party Battle, which is kind of like a party game version of playing Magic. Battle Bosses is our first strategy game. So definitely check it out. If you go to kess.co/battlebosses, you can see a lot of the different stuff on how to play the game, what it's about. It kind of plays like if you take kind of a MOBA and made people 1v1. It's really fun. I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of videos that you'll be seeing and us tweeting about it and all that stuff for the next couple of weeks. Please sign up. There's a little email sign up thing, and we'll give you more info.
Super duper cool. You can see these little figures over here over our shoulder. So like it's kind of like the size of the figures, like they're cool. There's another kind of like Pop Funko type of figures in terms of their size and feel. They're vinyl, come in a similar box. You get like a whole entire like a game board and dice and minions and all these cool things that make the game function like in the bottom of the box, which is awesome. And it has very, very similar kind of thematics to Magic in a lot of ways. Like it's definitely
if you like Magic, you definitely can enjoy this game. They're very comparable.
It feels a lot like your battle boss is kind of like a Planeswalker in the way that they function.
Yeah, I previewed it on the Command Zone last week. We actually announced one of our. It was the first time we released a new character. So right now we've released 3 of 6 that'll be part of Generation 1. Kind of like the Origin 5 or the Lorwyn 5 of Planeswalkers, where up here you have Cthulhu. Ryu and Grakthar are the first 3, and I previewed Ryu and his samurai minions on the Command Zone last week. Yeah. And then over the next couple weeks, up to July, we'll release the other 3 main bosses from Generation 1. And then when we get to the Kickstarter, there's an additional 6 that people can unlock of like all these cool characters. So there's a total of 12 that you can possibly get, and there's a lot of cool stuff that we'll be showing you over the next couple weeks. Yeah,
so that's Battle Boss for you. Check it out. It's definitely an awesome product. I work with Kesco also, and I'm a big fan of it. It's definitely one of the products that Kes has designed that I am the most happy with, that I think is like a really, really awesome thing to talk about. I actually had it with me at GP Vegas, but played in multiple main events and had a very busy weekend, so didn't actually get to play games of Battle Boss.
Oh, man.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, we're going to talk about GP Vegas, though, and sort of the whole entire trip. It was just really exciting. So should we just jump into it? I mean, I feel like that's probably...
Was that the segue? I guess we'll be at Gen Con and Dice Tower. If you guys want to try it out, if you're going to either of them, we'll have the game ready for you to play there.
Yeah, and I mean, check out the Kickstarter, guys. Obviously, you know that Alex has great ideas as far as competitive games goes. You've listened to him for years on this show. So if you enjoy the stuff we do and our opinions on cards, you will probably enjoy this game. It's highly likely, and it's a worthwhile investment on Kickstarter. I endorse it fully. Not just as an employee, but as a game player who does not play a lot of games other than Magic.
And we will live stream gameplay now that we have this fancy camera that we can do that with.
Yes. So
Sweet.
Let's get into it. GP Vegas, so many things to talk about. The episode previewing it, talking about the deck I was going to play, just came out right now. So you guys heard it after Vegas happened. But if you're interested, you can listen to that and then this. And
so what deck did you play? Let's break down a little bit of getting into the tournament. I'm going to interview and get your little bit of a tournament report, and then that's going to be
because there's multiple things here. So the first deal is I was considering playing Jeskai Control, right? I wanted to play traditional Jeskai Control because I felt like your interaction against humans decks, just like your ability against the field felt really strong.
Sure.
And so originally I was going to do that, but it was sort of like, you know what, that's not my style. I don't really want to just play a deck that other people play that's a good deck, especially because when I lose in matches playing a deck like that, it's never very satisfying. Like I didn't take a risk. I didn't do something that I like really wanted to try. So you suggested that I play this deck that you had designed, and it was a Jeskai mid-range combo control deck.
So basically I've had a version of blue-white control, normally blue-white X, so it's either Esper or Jeskai or what have you. It's never banned with me at all times. I've had it since Modern existed. The first Modern PTQ I ever did well in, I took a just straight up blue-white, splashing literally just one steam vents so I could tick my engineered explosives up to 3, but otherwise it was just blue-white.
He did not top 8.
I got 13th place though. I lost to Mark Lullagu, and he was playing Boggles, and it was like when that deck first came out.
I remember, yeah.
And we went we went to turns because I kept like engineering explosives, all of his things
all
off,
his
and
Boggles.
then he just was able to draw more cards than I was able to kill. But
and then he won GPs. So that guy's really good.
but yeah, so I've had a version of that deck at all time. That was playing Teleria West. That's where that love started. But so this one, when Jace was unbanned, I was like, when we were talking about the problem with Jace and why we thought that maybe he wasn't okay to be banned, we were totally wrong. It was during the Splinter Twin era. If you had Jace and Splinter Twin, that was a super problematic combo because you were either trying to stop them from comboing off with Splinter Twin, they would just have Jace ticking up and digging them or being the threat that Jace can be. Or if you had to then pay attention to Jace, they would just, combo off on you. So you had to kind of choose. And so when Jace was unbanned, I was like, we don't have Splinter Twin, but we have Kiki Jiki and Restoration Angel, another card that I love. And Wall of Omens seems really good in the field right now. And threw all the cards together into the blue-white deck shell that I just had anyways and went off to the races. And so I've been testing it recently, and it did really well in testing. And so Ben was like, I need a blue-white deck. And I was like, do I have the blue-white deck for you?
Yeah, so he showed me the deck. And so the initial build, offhand, I believe, was 3 Serum Visions, 4 Lightning Bolt, 2 Lightning Helix, 4 Path to Exile, 4 Snapcaster Mage, 3 Reflector Mage, 4 Angel, 3 Kiki, 2 Jace, 1 Vendilion Click, and control package of 2 Logic Knot and 1 Dispel, all in the main deck with 22 lands exactly, only 3 Colonnades. You like that? I just did that off memory? It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the initial build. But and the Wall of Omens, I forgot about. There was 4 Wall of Omens in that deck.
That was a big one you missed.
Yeah, it was a huge one.
Yeah.
So Alex wanted to, he suggested that deck, and I felt like it was super sweet, but there was a couple things that I wanted to change around. So the first one was, I just think Saheeli's underplayed, and I love that card. And I know it interacts nicely with Wall of Omens, and I was like, there's Planeswalkers in this deck. I think we should probably play 1 Guardian, 1 Saheeli. So now you have multiple combos in the deck, but your Guardians can also reset your Planeswalkers. Because, that's a pretty big game. You can, minus...
You have a Teferi down or a Jace down, you plus or minus or brainstorm, whatever you want to do with it, and then you play the cat, and then it blinks the Planeswalker back in the play, and you get to re-trigger an ability. That's a lot of value.
One of the coolest things you can do with Jace and Felidar Guardian is you slam Jace on turn 4. Maybe you bounce a creature, or maybe you brainstorm in that turn if that's what you need to do. Turn 5, you brainstorm Jace, play a fetch land, play cat, brainstorm Jace again, and then crack the fetch land. And just have the ultimate sculpted, just bananas hand.
Right.
Right? You've just drawn 2 cards, you've gotten rid of everything bad you didn't want. It's pretty hard to lose with a Jeskai deck at that point. Mm-hmm. So the big changes that I ended up making were that I also noticed that game 1, I didn't like my Tron matchup at all. I thought my Tron matchup was really bad.
Well, that's so blue. Yeah, sure.
So I knew that the blue-white control decks were playing spreading seas. That's the thing they were doing in the main.
Sure.
So I decided I would cut down a little bit, and I would play 2 spreading seas in the main. So instead of playing the counter spells, I would play spreading seas main deck. And so the deck ended up just changing out 2 of the Jaces for 2 Teferis, because that card's totally nuts.
Which I think in hindsight, and we'll talk a little bit about the main changes I would make in hindsight after the tournament, I think you probably wanted to do 2 Jace, 2 Teferi, because I think by sacrificing all of your Jaces, your ability to dig towards the combo became heavily depreciated.
Yeah, and we ended up with 1 Jace in the main. I agree with you. I like 2 Jaces in the main. I probably think... Problem is, if you cut the Serum Visions, then you have to go up on lands, and if you go up on lands, then you lose other cards. So,
one other card I would cut, I think, and you agree.
Yeah, Reflector Mage.
Yeah.
So the big changes, all of the changes I made is I added 2 Spreading Seas, I added 2 Teferi, I added 1 Cat, 1 Saheeli, and a 23rd land. Those were like, I think, of the main deck, all of the main deck changes that I made. And then the only difference there was the sideboard didn't exist yet. So I built my sideboard like a Verdict, then I had a Wrath, then I had some more counter spells, and I had like 2 Damping Sphere because it was all I could really think of last minute against Tron and Storm, though it doesn't interact with my deck very well. I can't remember the rest of the board offhand, but it was fine. It needed to be changed a little bit. I did, however, on this trip, because I was traveling for Kess during the week before I got there, I got to play in, where was I? Chicago, in like an adjacent neighborhood to where I was staying at a store called Nerd Rage. And they've got like a huge local scene following. They do like their own like 2Ks and 5Ks.
Okay.
It's really, really cool. It was like 30 people showed up for Wednesday Night Modern. I called every store in the Chicago area that night just so I could like jam some games before I got to Vegas. And I got to play an actual 4 rounds. And went 2-2 with the initial build before we made all the changes. So no Spreading Seas, anything like that. And I was pretty impressed. I enjoyed the deck. I had a really, really good time.
I mean, like, this is a deck I've been, it's the pet deck I've been tuning around. If you, and we'll get into like direct tournament report in a second, but there is footage of it. So Ben got to be feature match in round 2 that we'll go over. But you can see like it uses like, I use like clear dragon shields with shadow, inner sleeves. Perfect, and then there's a bunch of like weird, like pro mode cards. Like I have full art lightning helixes, and there's like 1 foil Teferi and 1 non-Teferi, just a bunch of random stuff.
I owned a foil Saheeli that I threw in there. It was dope. And there's like a moment. There's like a moment when the coverage starts too, and it's in match 1, and because it's Paul Cheon, Brian David Marshall, and Rich Hagan who are doing the coverage.
Yep.
And they like see the deck is called like counter cat combos.
That's
copycat combos.
It's what like. If they looked at the list and Cheon looked at the list and he was like, this is what this deck list is. Because it is a counter cat combo deck. It has those pieces, though it is much more on, that's like kind of the B plan, if not D plan.
So Rich goes, so is this called diversifying your threats? And and Cheon's like, no, I think this guy's just playing cards that he wants to play.
So let's talk about the tournament. So round 1, you go into the tournament. And
So I get into Vegas. Obviously, Thursday night, I got in a little early before the tournament, met up with a buddy, did something totally non-Magic related, like just went and got a steak, tried to like really clear my mind. So, because I knew the weekend was going to be obviously just be like a massive amount of Magic, and there was so much cool stuff that happened.
Right.
I want to talk about all of. So Friday, that's when Modern starts. I show up early, I get my cards. Obviously, it's Vegas, so like I'm up late that night, drinking with buddies. So it's like you can't really start with like a clear mind at GP Vegas. It's very hard. You have to be so disciplined to get to Las Vegas and go into the tournament without having done anything the previous night. Mm-hmm. But I get the proper cards, build a deck, show up, and round 1 I play against Black Green Elves, which is hilarious that I played Black Green Elves in round 1 and 2. But I won in round 1. I can't remember exactly the matchup, but it was great. And round 2, I like got the thing on it was like, hey, feature match, Ben Bateman. I was like, really? My first feature match I've ever played in.
Well, that's like when you come to a GP and you don't have buys. That's kind of always the sweet spot if you're like a podcaster or if you want to look at something that isn't a tournament grinder, because if you play in a lot of GPs or you're a pro player, you have buys. So those first 3 rounds, they're like, oh, who do we feature? And then you won your first round, you're playing an interesting deck. And so they're like, oh, let's throw Ben the Boss Bateman onto the...
Well, there was none of that, though in the comments. That was fun. So yeah, so we got to do that, and I go in, and I sit down, and it's like, you know, I've just like each of these things is like new to me, right? Like we have a lot of friends, obviously. You know, Corey's been on the show a lot of times. Andrew Brown used to come on a lot. A lot of our friends are pros and have been pros and have done a lot of this. So like, you know, Burkhart's been on Feature Match a million times, right? Like,
sure,
they just get used to it. I'm on camera constantly, but not playing Magic. It's totally different. Like interviewing somebody on a red carpet, totally fine. Podcasting, easy. Like I'm in full control of that. This is like if I tap the wrong land.
Technically, Craig is in full control of this.
Yeah. If I like tap the wrong land, yeah, there you go. Yeah. The camera's so sophisticated, it probably like tracked Craig from behind, like coming around the camera to say hello.
Well, but now it's scanned Craig and can make an immortal copy of him if we ever need to.
Yeah. Can you get me a sandwich camera? Are you able to do that? Where was I going with this? I just like lost my train.
You were tilting because you were on camera for the first time as a
well,
Magic player.
Because like I have, you know.
We have all like 10,000 of the Twitch stream critiquing every single play you make, while also like calling you out because like you're playing with the deck I have that has clear sleeves, so it's like weird, and then you're also fully suited out as always.
Right.
And so it was. I would say that watching your on camera game was one of the best sports watching experiences I've had in my life.
Well, not to mention all the games were good. I got kind of crushed game 1, but then games 2 and 3 were amazing. Game 2 especially was incredible.
I mean, he did the elves thing of I dumped my whole hand before you have enough removal spells to stop me on turn 2.
And on the draw, game 1, I had like a really good hand against elves. I truly did. I had like, I think game 1 I played like turn 1.
Serum Visions.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah.
Like Serum Visions, turn 2, like Wall of Omens or something, or maybe it was like Bolt. I think it was Bolt turn 2, turn 3 Colonnade Wall of Omens, and I was dead by my turn 4.
Yeah.
So that's a decent hand against that.
But so game 2, you're on the play.
Yes, game 2 I'm on the play, and I keep like a pretty good hand, and the game goes long. And
one of the best things, I mean, I want to bring this up because it was important. You fetch for an island turn 1.
Yep.
So normally you don't do that. Normally you fetch for, especially in this deck where you have to get Kiki Jiki online, which costs 3 red. You want to fetch for red sources and blue sources. But because you are on elves or against elves that turn, and they aggroed you out so hard game 1, you get that 1 island, but then you win that game at 1 life.
Yeah, I think there was a couple plays in game 2, and it's hard to remember. Obviously, I just got back from Vegas last night. I haven't really gotten the chance to watch the whole thing. I watched like 20 minutes of it last night, but I was pretty aware of that game of the fact that like there wasn't going to be a totally perfect shot to win that game with the combo right out the gate because of my opening hand. Because I had what I needed, but the red colors were going to be harder to get to. And I think I recall wanting to keep a higher life total and also saying, like, if I win with the combo, it's going to be because I grind out to the point that I can hit my red sources, and I don't need to, like, be aggressive and get it right away, I think. So there was a couple of decisions made in that particular game that I remember, like, when I was looking at the chat that people were, like, really down on me for. Like, one of them, and they talked about this literally at the end of the game. Chion's like, it was that decision that he made to bolt Dwinnen's Elite as opposed to killing Azuri the turn that he cast Azuri. And it's like the reason I did it is because I was like, okay, well, I need to get power off the table because if I let this thing resolve, I think he can activate Heritage Druid and make that creature big enough to survive my bolt because now he has Azuri online because he can activate and generate mana with Heritage Druids in response to a bolt. So I had to kill the biggest power thing before he resolved Azuri because the next turn I was going to be able to kill it. And definitely it was a game that I had to like really grind it out. And then game 3, we went to turns. I think I would have won, but it's
you pretty blatantly. Obviously, anything can change because it's elves, but it definitely felt like you had that game, except for the fact that you went to turns, and that comes from just this is. I mean, as we just said, this is the third time you ever played with this deck, and.
Second time.
And the first time you're on camera, so that's on top of that, you want to be very specific with all the plays you make because it's very stressful and the whole world is watching you. So like it's understandable.
Also, I mean, everybody has their like foibles as a Magic player. One of mine is definitely that I'm a little bit of a slow player. I mean, I wouldn't call myself like the slowest, but I think a lot about my decisions. And you go to 3 games with like a 3-color combo control deck. There's like a lot of really niche decisions. You don't want to crack the wrong fetch to lose. Exactly. I mean, I went to 1 for a reason, right?
Right. And the other thing is elves versus control is always one of the most like I've gone to time in that matchup in every format I've ever played that both decks were available to more than any other matchup, because Elves has the ability to like get a bunch of stuff in the play, but it, you know, they have to tap a bunch of things. They have a lot of stuff going on, and then blue-white will just wipe the board or get rid of enough of them to make them restart, but then they get whatever engine they have to refill their hand and start over, and then you get another board wipe. So like each person goes back and forth doing a lot of stuff on their turns, and in the end it just kind of makes it go to time. Yeah,
I'm pretty certain after so that wrapped up, and it was definitely a lot of fun. I was really, you know, grateful to the team, Corbin and BDM and whoever it was that kind of noticed that I'd won a game to get me on camera. And my next two matches, I wish I could clearly remember. I know that I beat a Jeskai deck, Jeskai Control. They struggled, and I beat them for sure. I believe I beat them with the combo.
Yeah, how many times do you think you comboed out over the day one?
I think I comboed out more times in the day with the one of Saheeli and Felidar Guardian than I ever did with Angel Kiki.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. I'm not sure why it worked like that. It just did. I mean, obviously, you know, the Guardian, like, I'm a really big fan of Felidar Guardian in that deck. It's not as good as Angel at beating down, of course, but it can blink your Planeswalkers, which, like, I mentioned it already with Jace, but just any of them. Like, plussing Teferi.
Twice is, like, insane. Because you get the 4 mana the next turn. So you can plus Teferi, Felidar Teferi, plus him again, and then like flash in an Angel, blinking the cat on your turn to then blink another thing. It can go pretty far.
I mean, you can literally with that turn you just mentioned.
You can activate Teferi 3 times in one turn.
You can't do it on their turn.
No, but you can just blink. You can yeah, because it untaps the end steps, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I can't remember what the decks I played exactly were. It was those ones, and then like another like good modern deck, like it might have been Burn or something like that. It was like a real deck.
What were your losses?
They were like all against Jeskai.
Oh, okay.
I dropped after 7 rounds because I was 3-0-1, and I lost the last 3 in a row, and I just dropped before round 8.
Okay.
But I lost to Jeskai in round 5.
Well, that's when you got into the draw bracket, me and Michael Grothy, who was on the podcast and works at Casco as well, and one of the game designers here, we were discussing it, and we're like, that's kind of the worst position for you, because you have a deck that has sacrificed your Jeskai matchup for every other matchup with the combo, and because you have no counter magic, and because they can kind of stop what you're doing. And when we talk about what changes we'd probably make in the future, I definitely have an answer for that problem.
Yeah, it was really interesting to notice how bad it was against regular Jeskai. Just like them having Cryptic Command is so good against you. Mm-hmm. They have all the same good cards that you have. They just have more of them. Mm-hmm. You know, and you have to answer so many things to not let them outcard you. Even like them playing like in one of the games that I lost, like he played Search for Azcanta on turn 2. I was on the play. And I was like, do I Logic not this? And it's like, I think I just Logic not this. I think I have to, because if I don't, he's going to get ahead on land, and he's going to get ahead on cards so fast. It was Infect and 2 Jeskai Control matchups where I lost.
Okay.
And in fact, I might have just misplayed the Infect matchup looking back on it. Mm-hmm. It's
been a while since that deck was a thing to be relevant, so you're probably just a little bit out of practice against it.
We went to 3 games, and it was close. I could have won Infect, I think. It was game 1 was the one that I felt like I misplayed. He beat me in game 3 with Geists. He brought in Geist, and he... You know,
Infect bringing Geist in is really spicy.
It was sweet.
That's cool.
It was really powerful. I was impressed. So...
What was your easiest matchups?
I mean, it felt like Elves was actually a pretty good matchup for me, to be honest.
Okay.
If I had not gone to time, I would have just 2-0'd Elves decks in a row, and I beat Elves when I was in Chicago.
Sure.
So, but he was playing a different version of Elves. But I think, Elves is definitely a great matchup. It feels like any of the creature matchups were going to be pretty strong for me. Like, I think Humans was a pretty darn good matchup, probably. I didn't get to play that much diversity in the field. But that was what I did. So day 1 was super, super fun. I was with a group of people, and I decided that I would register, and I would play in the limited GP as well the next day, because once I scrubbed out. And so Eric Weidetz, who's the father of Highlander Roulette, who came with me, we played like a dozen games of Highlander. Instead of gambling in casinos, we bet like $20 a game on Highlander. What actually happened was we bet $10 a game before we were like halfway into a bottle of Jameson. Then by the time I had like 4-2'd him on $10 a game, we had finished the Jameson. And I was like, let's do another $20 a game. And then I lost 4-2.
Well, don't drink and play Magic.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really, really fun. And so then we woke up the next day, we went to the tournament, and everybody in my play group had a really good Dominaria day. Like Eric day 2'd, Alex Sheffield day 2'd, True missed by a match, and I lost my win in round 8 to day 2. My deck was pretty good, but it was really fun. I got to meet so many people in the community, so many fans of the show.
I know. I was just like tweeting FOMO in different creative ways throughout the weekend.
It was crazy. Like, I have to say, because we've done the show for 3.5 years, and this is my 3rd GP Vegas in a row.
Yeah.
So each of the GP Vegases, it feels like a higher number of people have finally become aware of the Masters of Modern podcast. Like, it's not, and we're not even on video until literally today. So a lot of people don't know what we look like. You and I have talked before about the fact that when we meet fans, a lot of the time it's because we're sitting down at a table and they hear our voice from 2 people away. And they're like, oh, I recognize your voice. Do you host the podcast? And it's like so crazy.
I've been recognized more like mid-game because I'm like, I'll counter that and burn that, or I'll cast Snapcaster Mage. Someone's like,
right,
you're Alex Kessler. I'm like, oh, that's right, because my voice is more recognizable than. Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy, though, to meet so many fans of game nights, of that. I mean, I got to meet Schmodown fans. I have this one story. This is my favorite thing in the world. So, you know John Roca, who's the outlaw that got the cowboy hat?
Yeah.
Andrew tackled?
Sure.
So I meet a couple, incredible people, so nice, and they walk up and they're like, hey, man, team action. Where's the belts? And I was like, oh, cool. No idea that I was a Magic content creator at all, by the way.
Oh, interesting. They just knew you were there.
They just knew that I was a Schmodown guy.
Got it.
So they walk up. And they're like, hey, man, like, the dude's like, do you mind if I get a picture, if my wife gets a picture with you? And I'm like, yeah, of course, dude, no problem. Like, you want sunglasses or no sunglasses? He's like, definitely sunglasses, because, like, that's my Team Action character. And he's like, she's not even really a Team Action fan. And she's like, shut up, honey. And, and I'm like, who's your team? And she's like, oh, man, I'm a fan of the Outlaw. John Roca's the love of my life. It's just like, I can't wait to tell the story to Roca. This is the most amazing thing in the world. And then at the end of it, you know, I did pictures and met them, talking for a little while, gave them a little inside scoop on Schmodown. They were like, wait, you do a Magic podcast? Really? I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm here playing. Like, that's, and I was like, and they're like, oh, cool, you got new listeners to the podcast. I was like, great. Backwards compatible here. It's working. It's all working out.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
Yeah, it was funny. Anyway, but so back to the tournament. It just that was the end of that. We had a great time. I got to hang with Gavin Verhey a bunch. I know Gavin's
great.
A longtime friend of yours, and he's, for those of you that don't know, Gavin designed Battle Bond. That's his most recent baby.
He designs. I think he's in charge of, and I might be wrong about this, and I apologize if I am, but like all not like standard set Magic products.
Yeah, any interesting, like he's involved in all of the interesting expansions and the different versions of play, and just a super smart dude who knows a lot about what he's doing.
Right.
And we played a bunch of Highlander Roulette. I know I've mentioned it on this podcast endlessly, but we played a bunch of it with Eric and Gavin and I, and it was just super, super fun. And so it was a really, really great day, great weekend. And then, Sunday, obviously, I was like just exhausted from the whole trip. I'd been gone for 5 days at that point playing Magic, and yeah, there you go. That was my tournament. So here we are.
Well, congratulations for getting on coverage. It was epic.
Yeah, thank you, and a big shout out to Wedge from the Manosaurus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he's doing okay. He was walking around today.
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah, he
an
had
update.
he had emergency
I donated
back
during the
surgery.
weekend.
Was like a massive whole thing, like just out of nowhere too. Really scary. The community rallied together and like just got him a lot of support. It was really amazing. Yeah. So get well soon, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely big stuff there. So
cool. That's
kind of the tournament report. I'm trying to think if there was anything else like super relevant at the tournament. I got to like hang with the Vintage Magic guys a bit and saw a live beta pack opening. There was also the beta draft, which was crazy.
That was really cool. Yeah, Time Walk, Underground Sea, I think were the two coolest cards opened.
Yeah. There was some. They opened a Mox.
Oh, they opened a Mox. Okay.
Yeah, there was a Mox Emerald. Actually, not Amber. There was a Mox Amber in a beta pack. There was a Mox Emerald, but it was dope. Yeah, it was super, super cool.
All right, so that's it for today's episode, I think. Obviously, big thank you to Wizards for our preview card.
Yeah.
Isolate.
Are we out of time? Is that what just happened?
I think, yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. It's been like an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow. That was a fast hour 20.
That might be an off count, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Craig? It's 42 minutes. Oh, no.
We're about 40 minutes shy of the hour 20 mark there.
That's half of what I just said.
Yeah. Do we have any time to talk about deck changes, or no? We got to wrap it up.
Oh, we can talk about deck changes. Yeah.
Your deck,
that was the part I think we were going to do. Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm tired. Yeah. So I think my big takeaway from what you were telling me over the weekend and watching you play on coverage is I think straddling the two different combos a little bit more thoroughly. So instead of just throwing one Saheeli in and one cat in, maybe going 3 and 3 between the Restos and the cats, and then having 2 Kiki and 2 Saheeli, because Saheeli does a lot of other stuff the deck wants to do, and it's easier to cast. The fact that it is like very splashable and you only need 2 colors to do it versus the 3 red is definitely something that was really appealing. And the fact that it does the same stuff of like worst case scenario, I cast this with a Wall of Omens and I blink the Wall of Omens and gain value, or I blink a Snapcaster. It's like a 3-mana Snapcaster mage,
yeah, I mean,
which is totally fine.
That was the stuff that was the most appealing to me, was like even certain plays. I mean, I won a game in like round 3, I think, against Jeskai, where I was like, I can't hit this 5th land for my I can't hit this 5th land for my what's this called? My Kiki Jiki.
Sure.
But I can hit this 3rd land, right? And I was like, oh, so I can blink this angel with this what's it called? And that's going to set off the other combo and it wins the game.
Right. And like for a while, because something I didn't really even realize until it happened on camera is that you can go infinite with Resto and the cat together.
They just blink each other
I don't know
forever.
what to do with it, and like I think maybe the answer is like have 2 Auriok champions in the sideboard or something along that lines. It's like cute but not bad. Like for a second I was like, oh, what if we play with Trinket Mage and then we have like 1 Darksteel Citadel, 1 Engineered Explosives, and 1
Altar of the Brood.
1 Altar of the Brood, so that like most of the time you're just getting explosives or an artifact land that you can just, you know, it finds you a land which you can always use, but sometimes you can get the combo piece. But in reality, it was like maybe in the sideboard, Auriok Champion makes more sense. And then
there might be some really clever stuff. I mean, there really honestly might be some weird stuff we could do. I'm not sure. I'd like kind of want to explore that avenue a little more, because I don't think you're totally off with that. Like the Trinket Mage package could be cool, but I also think there's interesting stuff with like Saheeli was originally notable because you could, in standard, I think, Altar of the Brood, Saheeli, and Liquid Metal Coating. That was never standard.
No, that was never standard legal.
And there was like a whole deck being designed. I remember that people.
There was
were
no
testing
infinite
out
combo
with
with Saheeli in standard until Cat came out.
Yeah. But like, I guess I don't think you would want to do that. But the idea that your Saheeli could blink any permanent in your deck if you turn it into an artifact with Liquid Metal Coating, and that also that just allows you to.
Yeah, I think that's going like the point of Saheeli here, and the reason I liked it here more than every other time you've ever brought up Saheeli, which is now what you're doing, is that it like was within the game plan of what the deck was doing, which is like playing Wall of Omens, the protect your planeswalkers that then gain you value as the game over as you draw into a combo piece. And like that's the other thing is I would probably up it to 2 Jaces, 2 Saheeli, 2 Teferi, so you almost have like a 3, 4, 5 curve there.
Yeah.
So you can even like wall Saheeli into Jace into Teferi, and that's like a perfect little curve that you have there.
It is interesting that like the further you get away from the Flash game plan, so the more you have like Wall of Omens and Reflector Mages and Planeswalkers and Cats and stuff like that, the less the deck starts to feel like a Flash deck, and the more the deck starts to feel like you can just play things at sorcery speed that are good. And then it's like, well, how much better is V-Click in your deck than just playing Flicker Wisp? Because it's the same stats that does your game plan.
I still think V-Click, because like V-Click, the reason V-Click's in the deck is to stop your opponent from doing a thing versus Flicker Wisp, which is like, I think at this point you're at the top end of the need of that effect. I don't think you need Flicker Wisp as much as other things. And Flicker Wisp is at its best when you can flash it in, because you can fog people.
Wisp doesn't allow you to reactivate the Planeswalker same turn.
Right, yeah. Like all the other stuff you're doing, it doesn't go infinite with anything. I think you have enough of that effect. But I do think, like, you know, we were talking about, you know, cutting down on Reflector Mages, because I just, your matchup against humans and decks like humans that Reflector Mage is good against is already pretty good. Where your matchup, and maybe bringing in board wipes in the sideboard helps you there, but your matchup issues are more against like the blue-white decks or whatever. So taking those out and bringing in Dispels was like the big, like, oh, that's obviously what you need, because against decks that have removal spells, you can protect your combo, and then just like every deck in the format has something that gets blown out by Dispel, be it Collected Company or. It
feels like probably the move is to play 3 Dispels in your sideboard, maybe even just 4, just so you can beat Jeskai.
I think maybe 3 and then 1 in the main.
Yeah, because it's such a big deck. And then I think probably instead of worrying so much about Logic Knots in your sideboard, you just play the full 2 or 3 Wear Tear, and you're fine. Because then at that point you can get rid of a lot of the permanents. Like Throne of the Godfair was a problem for me, and like I was worried about countering it, but like Wear Tear in my sideboard gives me the ability to have something that can answer that.
Against like a little bit of everyone.
It's
Also,
like good
I don't
against
think
Affinity.
like
it's like good against a lot of decks.
I love Wear Tear. I mean, I've been a big fan for a long time.
Them
I think
to spreading sees you like.
Yeah. It gets rid of Blood Moons. There's a bunch of different pieces it gets rid of. I think also having in your sideboard just like Cryptic Commands. Like, I think like just like You take out the Kikis, you bring in the cryptic commands, you still can combo out because you have Saheeli in the deck, and like you just go more for that game plan. Or like you keep Kiki Jiki and you like deal with the fact that you need double red and double blue, which is normally okay.
The combo split was interesting. Like Stain the Mind got cast against me at one point. It might have even been on camera, to be honest with you. Or I think it was game one. It was match one. I told you I played Black Green Elves.
I don't even know what Stain the Mind is.
It's the Convoke Lobotomy.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So round one, he sees a Saheeli in game one, but no combo cards. He just sees Saheeli and like regular combo cards, and I win the game. And so then game two, he brings in Stain the Minds and he convokes naming Saheeli. And I was like, I'll make it real easy for you. You're welcome to look at my deck. There's one. And he looked at it just like, ugh.
It's brutal.
Yeah. So, I think those changes are all pretty reasonable. I might play this deck again this summer. I'm probably going to play in some of the PPTQs. And maybe I was going to go to Sacramento, but it's limited, so I'm not sure.
Sure.
The next reasonable modern PTQ or GP I'll probably go to and probably play some PPTQs. And maybe I'll play this deck again. I have like a sweet brew upcoming with the new Nicol Bolas that I want to build, but we'll talk about that later.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's really good, guys.
Yeah,
it's excellent. Anyway,
it's just a 4/4 for 4.
that makes them discard a card and it flies. A 4/4 for 4 that
Not
makes
like
them discard
random.
What?
It's just like a random discard.
It's a 4/4 flyer for 4
Okay.
that they have to lose a card, and then long game flips into an unbeatable permanent. That's insanity. Like that's crazy. And with Training Grounds, you can flip it for 5 instead of 7. All right, let's keep going.
What I have to deal with every day. I was so proud that he decided to just like only add one Saheeli to like a good deck.
And now he wants to play more Saheelis. Who was right? Who was right?
Craig?
Is Training Grounds legendary?
No.
Multiple Training Grounds.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm aware.
Craig is a bad influence on this podcast.
My whole thing. Okay, we'll talk about this on a later episode. But
I'm going to isolate both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's going to wrap us
not
up
in modern.
for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This is exciting for us.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys get to like
See us. This is what I look like.
So this introduces the last couple shout outs here. The first one is there will be more video content now coming out.
Correct.
And so you're going to see this somewhere. Where this exists, where this video goes up, by the time it's live, which will be Thursday, because that is Monday.
Well, make sure. So this will be where it's supposed to live, wherever that is. Subscribe.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a place to subscribe here. Also, most likely the first place people will see this are on Twitter or Facebook, either on our page or the Facebook group, because that's where we're going to definitely share at all those places. Make sure to subscribe, share, like all of those places. Share this video.
That's the first shout out. The second shout out to remind everybody here is that check out the Command Zone. They are on collected.company, the same place you can find our podcast.
Yep.
They've got Game Nights, which is obviously that awesome series you guys have all seen before. We've both been on it. Craig, who's in the room here, has been on it a bunch of times. It's a great series.
I was on last week's episode of the regular series, the Command Zone.
So Jimmy and Josh are killing it.
Where I do a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown of battle bosses. We've talked about it before on the podcast, and we'll talk about it more.
The last two shout outs. One, I did mention this on the episode of the show that came out 2 weeks ago. I am going to start streaming Moto in the next week. I have to like learn how to play Moto because I've never done it before.
It's okay.
But I'm going to start doing it.
Yep.
You guys are going to start seeing my brews that I'm talking about on stream every week. So that's going to be a thing. And again, when those are out, I will share them extensively and we'll talk about subscribing.
I mean, the nice thing is I already have, I would say, 60% of a modern mana base.
Yeah.
And modern collection in Moto. I'm missing like Tarmogoyfs, but they're not that good. But I have Snapcaster Mages, I have Scalding Tarns and all those things because I like would just draft. The most I played Moto was during the Return to Ravnica into Tarkir block era.
Okay,
so I
sweet.
have
So
like
you
a
got
lot
a
of
lot
the
of
important man bases, so it's good.
So then also, and we mentioned it earlier, but we're going to make a new video explaining it, guys. Patreon.com/MMCast. That's literally how you got video. It took us a long time because we don't promote it that much. We just mention it every week. But if you like the content we do, if you're fans of the Masters of Modern content, just donate a couple bucks a month. Seriously, we'll try to come up with more tiers to give better rewards and make more of a community there. But like at the very least, we just want
it does directly go into
more
stuff that benefits it. It's why we're able to do everything you're seeing here.
Yeah, literally. Building the set, buying the desk, buying all of it. Like we've taken a long time to put it all together and even invested some of our own money into making this happen, and we want to continue doing more of it. So help us out on the Patreon.
Yep.
It really means the world. It makes a huge difference.
I mean, we've been doing it for 3 years. To keep us motivated to keep doing it, it is definitely, we are very appreciative.
Absolutely.
And the last thing is also check out Battle Bosses, kest.co/Battle Bosses. There's a bunch of cool stuff there. You'll be able to see the game. We have a live stream gameplay there. We'll also be posting content on the website and and there's a Facebook group for Battle Bosses and a Facebook page for Battle Bosses. Go to check all those stuff. And then there's even like a MailChimp, if you guys are serial fans, that you can submit to. And we'd love to get updates, because when the Kickstarter goes live, it's going to be awesome. It's a great game.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up. We'll see you same time, same place next week.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, guys.
Love
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to the MMCast@rocketjump.com. See you later, alligator.